Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're exploring a fascinating yet deeply unsettling phenomenon. The Appalachian Mountains are famous for their breathtaking beauty, sweeping valleys, and incredibly rich history. But there's a darker side. This vast landscape can sometimes act as this secretive force that quite literally swallows people whole. We're going to be looking at the evidence from 4 separate, totally baffling cases where the Earth just seemed to open up and erase all trace of human life.
Now, what's truly unsettling about this is our preconceived notions. When we think of people getting lost in the wild, we usually picture inexperienced hikers or, reckless adventurers. But our source material reveals a completely different reality. Over a 20-year span, 5 entirely ordinary people from completely different walks of life walked into the Appalachian landscape and just ceased to exist. It really proves that no matter your age, your background, or how well you know your surroundings, absolutely no one is completely safe from vanishing without a trace.
Take a look at this breakdown. It perfectly sets up our arc for today. We're examining 4 distinct demographic profiles. We've got a teenager, a set of devoted parents, a 6-year-old child, and a 71-year-old grandmother. These were everyday people who had no apparent reason to disappear, and yet despite all their differences, they all met the exact same unresolved fate out there in the unforgiving wilderness.
Let's start with case number 1, the teenager, Trenny Gibson's field trip back in 1976.
So this is the story of a 16-year-old straight-A student whose high school field trip somehow turned into a nationwide mystery. Track this timeline with me to see how rapidly things escalated. It was a rainy October day, and Trenny's horticulture class went on a surprise field trip. By noon, they arrive at Klingman's Dome for a 2-mile hike. By 3:30 p.m., everyone is supposed to be back at the bus, and everyone did return, except for Trenny. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is how quickly normalcy dissolved into total chaos. In a matter of hours, a routine school day shifted into a frantic search and rescue mission.
I really want you to picture the geography here, because it makes her disappearance almost impossible to comprehend. They were on a narrow, wet trail with steep drop-offs on both sides. The group of 38 students was moving in a long, single-file line, and Trenny was right there in the middle. Her friends reported seeing her bend over to look at something on the right side of the trail, and then, when they glanced back up, she was just gone. She inexplicably vanished from the middle of a moving, single-file line of students without making a single sound.
The ensuing search was massive. Even President Carter eventually ordered a search, and bloodhounds actually tracked her scent to nearby Highway 441 before it just went cold. The theories we're left with are chilling. Did she wander off and succumb to the elements? Was she attacked by an animal? The FBI even investigated a former stalker who had broken into her home 2 years prior, but his school attendance records completely cleared him, and the idea that she ran away on her own, well, she left her purse and $200 in savings sitting back at home. So these theories are literally all we have left.
Moving on to case number 2, the parents. Claude and Sue Shelton's midnight drive in 1971.
Let's rewind a bit to Corbin, Kentucky in 1971. Where a perfectly ordinary, hardworking set of parents made a seriously bizarre late-night decision. Come on, it's time to go. If you're going with me, let's go. This eerie quote was the very last thing their 11-year-old daughter ever heard. She was awake in bed at 2:30 in the morning and heard her father say this through the thin walls of their trailer. They were supposedly just running to a truck stop 5 miles away for a late-night snack and some coffee. They drove off into the darkness and never came back.
Just look at the evidence they left behind. 3 sleeping children under 12. A savings jar with $600 in cash right there on the kitchen counter. Sue's purse. And Claude, who was this deeply dependable mechanic at a muffler shop for 10 years, hadn't even claimed his paycheck that day. The jarring contrast here is vital to the mystery. Think about it. Devoted parents with a steady job simply do not abandon their young children and their life savings in the middle of the night on a whim. It just doesn't add up.
The investigation turned up virtually nothing except for one solitary clue. A truck driver recalled spotting a car with its hood up on the side of the road at 1 a.m. in the area. This has left investigators forever wondering, did Claude, with his expert mechanical skills, stop his prized 1967 Ford Galaxy to help a stranded driver and unwittingly step into a fatal trap, or did they maybe take a wrong turn near the massive Laurel River Lake, which is nearly 280 feet deep? More than 50 years later, neither the couple nor their car has ever been found.
All right, case number 3, the child. Kelly Holland in the snow, 1982.
Now this is quite literally a parent's worst nightmare. A 6-year-old boy vanishing from his own front yard in a freezing Kentucky snowstorm. Track the mother's reported movements here with me. Kelly had been playing in the snow all day. At 4 p.m., his mother leaves to use a neighbor's phone. When she gets back an hour later, Kelly is gone. Yet strangely enough, at 6 p.m., she makes dinner and eats entirely alone, assuming he was just over at a friend's house. It isn't until midnight that the police are actually notified. This deeply suspicious 11-hour delay in calling the authorities completely baffles investigators to this day.
It's absolutely vital to understand the location here. Pine Tree Holler wasn't some bustling suburb. It was a remote, dead-end road with only about 50 residents. Everybody knew everybody, and the locals were known to notice any unfamiliar vehicle that entered the area. This geographic reality makes the theory of a random stranger sneaking in to abduct a child almost impossible to pull off without someone somewhere noticing.
And then there's this. When the mother finally went to her boyfriend's grandparents' house to use the phone to call for help, she claimed they refused to let her dial 911 until after midnight. Why? Because they said the phone call would be, quote, cheaper. I mean, let that sink in for a second. The crucial point here is this bizarre, absolutely nonsensical excuse for delaying a search while a 6-year-old child was missing in sub-freezing winter temperatures. Despite endless searches, polygraphs, and anonymous tips, Kelly's fate remains a total mystery.
Finally, case number 4, the grandmother. Gladys Kid's Dark Secrets, 1990.
This next case proves that these mysteries don't just happen to the young or the reckless. Sometimes even a beloved cake-baking grandmother harbors some incredibly dark secrets. I mean, look at this staggering number. On August 6, 1990, Gladys walked into her local bank and demanded $80,000 in $100 bills. When the manager suggested a cashier's check for safety, she just stone-facedly refused. She took the cash, walked out, and was never seen again. This massive sum is what makes the case so wild, especially considering Gladys lived on a fixed Social Security income of just $700 a month and was known for being exceptionally frugal.
What's glaringly obvious here is the massive disconnect between the woman everyone knew and the evidence left behind. A few weeks after she vanished, her adult children received letters telling them not to look for her. But here's the catch. Gladys only had a 4th-grade education and was a famously terrible speller. These letters, however, featured flawless grammar and penmanship, using a vocabulary she never used in her daily life. It read as if someone had coached her or outright forced her to write exactly what was on the page. So let's piece this puzzle together. In the months prior, she was getting these secret phone calls where she'd only whisper, before rushing out for hours without any explanation. We also learned she had secretly sold her beloved 100-acre family farm without telling her kids. Add to that abandoning her car at the bank with the keys still in the ignition, and never collecting a dime of Social Security again. From those secretive phone calls to vanishing from the parking lot, it certainly seems like she was being manipulated by an unknown shadow.
Section 5. The Unforgiving Mountains. 50 Years of Unsolved Mysteries.
As we wrap up this explainer, we really have to look back at the overarching antagonist in all of these distinct stories, the Appalachian landscape itself. Each case is defined by a strange, almost unbelievable catalyst, yet, despite massive FBI involvement, lakes being completely scoured by dive teams, and highly trained search dogs deployed across the terrain, the current status remains exactly the same across the board: unsolved. No remains, no vehicles, no closure. The sheer scale and ruggedness of these mountains is incredibly effective at keeping deadly secrets hidden from the world.
So I want you to take all the information we've unpacked today, the timelines, the physical evidence, the harsh geographic realities, and just ask yourself, were these simply tragic accidents hidden by heavy foliage? Were they carefully coordinated crimes that used the vast wilderness as the ultimate cover? Or is there something else at play that caused these completely ordinary people to just be swallowed by the mountains? Based on all the evidence we've covered today, what do you think really happened to the vanished faces of Appalachia?